Do you want some LED lights on your layout? Are you confused by in series, in parallel? How do I connect the LED lights to each other? What do I plug them into? Keep watching today on Pride Parkway and I'll show you how I've took this country station from this to that. Hello and welcome back to Pride Parkway. Another month's over and lots more work has been done up here on my country station. If you're new here, I'm Jeff and this is my Engage Loft layout, and this is the third video where we've been looking at this country station. If you're new here, I've got a main station to be built over that side of the layout, but this is my country station, and in the first video we repurposed some old Metcalfe platforms. In the second video we worked on the station buildings, and it's now become time for me to get the lights in all of this. As always, please do like, comment, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button as well. Remember, it's completely free. You will get notified when the new videos go live, and you can follow along on the journey as I continue to build this layout. So I had quite a few people ask me about some of the LED lights over on the other side of the layout and how I did it. And this channel is just me documenting building this layout in the loft. I don't really do how-to videos. I just show you how I do things as I'm building them and as the layout develops. So it seemed natural to just wait until I hit an area of the layout that needed lights, and therefore you'll just see how I do the lights. And a couple of things to point out to start with before I get the keyboard warriors at me. I'm not an electrician. I have no electrical qualifications. I would never attempt to do anything electrical in my own house. I would get an electrician in. But up here on the layout, it's all pretty low voltage stuff. I never leave anything turned on when I'm not here. I have a fire extinguisher right behind me. I have emergency lights to get out of the loft if I'm up here on a night and the power goes off in the house. So I've got all bases covered. So what I'm going to show you today is how I wire up LED lights on the layout. May not be the correct way, it may not be the only way, but it's the way I do it and it's worked for me. I really struggle to get my heads around resistors and wiring in series and parallel and all them kind of terminologies that you see, and I've done my research and I've picked snippets up as I've gone along of what works for different people, and that is what's got me to the point where I can wire up lights like this. So I'm going to show you how I do it. Hopefully somebody will find it useful. If you're an experienced modeler following along, you probably won't find it useful, but please do put comments down below. If you've got a better way of doing things, or you think we can learn something from each other, then leave a comment, because that's what this hobby is all about. There's no model railway clubs or anything like that at the minute. So share your knowledge, share your experience, and share what works and what doesn't work. That's all I'm trying to do here. So without rambling on any further, let's jump into the video. Okay, so the first thing we need before we can go anywhere with any lights is a power supply. This is the power supply that I use. I buy them on eBay. You can probably get them from other places. And all you need to do is type into eBay PIFCO, PIFCO, AC, DC, regulated power supply, power adapter, power plug, any of those combinations, and it will bring them. Here we have one. Now you can see here that this is available in 600, 1000, 1500, 2250, and this is a switching regulated power supply. And by switching I mean it switches between 3, 4.5 all the way up to 12 volt DC, and it's regulated, so the power in it is regulated. And the price in here ranges from £8.99 to £15.49, depending on which option you choose. Now I've got a big layout with a lot of LED lights on it, or eventually we'll have a lot of LED lights in it, so I'll buy the biggest one, because if I buy the smallest I'm just going to have to try and find more and more plugs. Now I have 4 of these on the layout. I use them switched to 3 volt and 12 volt, and I have a 3 and a 12 on this side of the layout and a 3 and a 12 on the side of the layout behind us. Well, I will have, this will be the 3 volt one that's going on the part of the layout behind me, which is where the country station is. So let me get this out the packaging and I'll show you what I do with it. And here we have a power supply. Nice and simple. It comes with all these different attachments, so if you're using it for something in the house that you needed one of these attachments for, or a USB attachment, they're all there. That's just a bit of rubbish off the packaging. I don't need any of these, so they can go the distance to one side. This is a little key. We need that. I'll take that out of the packet in just a second. Can't get it out right now. And then here, as you can see, this is where we switch the power from 3 volts round to 12 volts. And you just use this little key thing that comes with it, just so you can use a screwdriver, just stick it in there and turn it to whatever you want it to be. Look at that, did it without taking out the packaging. So I'm going to be using 3 volts, so we'll leave that like that. Obviously we've got the wire at this end, and on the end of the wire we've got this thing, which is what you use those attachments that are in the packet that we're not going to use. And all I'm going to do is chop the end off with a pair of scissors, pull the 2 wires apart, and strip the end of the wires using my wire strippers. Probably about, I don't know, not even 10 mil. What's that, 5 mil, something like that. And twist the ends, which would have been easier to do if the whole thing hadn't come off, but never mind. So there we have a 3 volt power supply. Now, if you remember, this one is 2,250, and if you remember when I showed you them on eBay, they were available in different sizes from 600 up. Now, I was told, and this is what I've worked off, and it's not gone wrong so far, but if I'm wrong, put it in the comments, and if you're right, I will pin it to the top for everybody to see, because we're all here to help each other out at the end of the day. But my understanding is that an LED light will use 20 of these. I don't actually know what the MA means, so again, pop it in the comments down below, let me know. So, for example, if you bought a 600 and one LED takes 20, then that means, if I got my maths right, you'd be able to run 30 LEDs from that 600. Using the same calculation on 1,000, you'd be able to run 50 LEDs and so on. So I buy the biggest one because that means I can run the most lights on the layout from the least amount of plugs. So I reckon that if I've got my maths right, I can run up to about 112 LEDs from this. I'm going to call it 100 just to be safe, because if I overload it, it'll pop, and I don't want it to pop. So the first thing I'm going to do before I go any further is I'm going to mark this up so that I know exactly what it is. Alright, so when I say I'm going to mark it up, basically what I mean is I'm going to put stickers on it so I know exactly what this is. So when it's plugged in under the layout, I know what it is. I do this with everything electrical under the layout. All wires have tags on, everything, because it's just too easy to forget what you've done. I've got my 2 labels there, and all I do is I stick one on that tells me what it is. So this is my 3 volt supply, and the other one is a friendly reminder to me of what that means. So that is 2,250, 3 volts means I can run a maximum of 100 to 112 LEDs off it. So that's the first job. Now the second job is I need to connect something to the other end of this for all my wires from the layout to go into. And for this I buy these little things. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 wires. Now one's positive and one's negative, and I'm just going to put one wire in each of these bottom 2. Now if there's a bit too much wire, it might need trimming down, but they'll go in there, and that then means that I'll have a full row of positive and a full row of negative. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, there's 12 there, so I can have 12 different power feeds coming into this. So excuse the mess that is my loft, but basically there it is, attached on one of the legs under the baseboard. Screw in the top, screw in the bottom, wires in the bottom of it, plug right there, plug that in, and we've now got a 3 volt power supply on this side of the layout. Next job, platform lights. Already finished the first platform. You can see here we've got some platform lights running all the way along, and now these are all wired in, just some bits of tape holding the wire in place, and we need to do exactly the same thing with the other platform. Now we've also got this building included as well, and I'll come on to buildings a little bit further on in the video, but I'm just going to turn my desk lamp off and grab a little 3-volt power supply, just so you can see what we're going to be achieving. So that's what we want. The lights are flashing because I'm just holding the wires on, but once it's connected to the mains, so let's get rid of this one that's done and bring in the one that needs doing. So here is the lights that I am going to be using. These are from Kite's Lights, LED 38mm double black, and these were £18.99, and these came with 10 lights, and you can see here, so these LEDs can be connected direct on 3 volts DC, so these are perfect for our 3-volt system that we've set up, but it also tells you they can be connected on anything up to 18 volts as long as you use the resistors that are fitted. Now I've got a 3-volt and a 12-volt power supply, so I don't need to use them because I'm not going to connect it to the 12-volt. I'm going to connect it to my 3-volt supply, so I'll just keep them for future. Put them in an electric bits box. So here is the lights we're going to be using. Hopefully you can see them okay. Now I painted these yesterday with some blue enamel paint so that they match in with my GNER colour scheme on the layout. So I've got 5 of these sets of lights to go on this platform and 5 that I put on the other one. And what it is just worth doing is just checking that each of these work before you glue them on. And all I do to check that they work is just grab my little battery pack power supply and just check each one works. Now I've already checked these, so I do know they're good. And then the next thing we need to do is work out where we want the lights on the platforms. And I've already gone along here and just put a little bit of tape where I want each of the lights to go now. Okay, so we've glued all of the lights in, and I've also glued the building in. Now nothing's connected at this stage, we've just literally got the lights in place where I want them on the platform, and then underneath we've just got the wires from the lights, and we've also got the wires from that little waiting room that I glued on there as well. So you're joining me at the computer because I actually decided this would be an easier way to show you what I'm doing, as opposed to getting my giant hands in the way of tiny LED lights and soldering on wires. So here in front of us we've got 2 platforms, platform 1, platform 2, and each of them has 5 LED pre-wired lights on it. You can have more, you can have as many lights as you want. Just remember the capacity that you've got available in your socket to use. Up here we've got the power supply, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some wire. Now I use red for positive and black for negative as a general rule, and all we need to do is connect each of these lights together. So we need to take a piece of wire that's going to be long enough to reach from the socket to the first light, and what we're going to do is we're going to solder that onto the positive wire there with a little bit of heat shrink to protect it, and then I'm going to cut out some pieces of wire that are a little bit longer than the gap between that and the next light, and basically you need to cut those pieces of wire in red and black for all of these lights. Then all we're going to do is solder on a red wire from that positive to that positive, and so on all the way along, and then across underneath to the next platform, and again all the way along. Now remember, with this wire here, it needs to be long enough to fit underneath the baseboard from one platform to the next platform, because remember there's going to be trains running through here, so this wire has to go under the board. Then we're going to take our negative wire and we're going to do exactly the same. So a long piece from the socket, remember not to plug it in yet, to the first light, attach it, short piece, and so on until you get all of your lights connected together, a little something like that. Now I find it easiest to, once I've got this in place, to cut this wire here. Basically what we want to do is just have one platform fully wired and another platform fully wired. I'll then drill a hole in the baseboard there and another hole there, thread the wires through, and here in the middle we can just reconnect them wires, either using a terminal block or using some other kind of tool, maybe solder them together. I use a terminal block to attach them, and there we have all of our lights fastened together. And you can do exactly the same with street lights, or imagine this is a row of buildings and each building has an LED light in. You can do exactly the same to connect each of the buildings and each of the lights together and back to the power source. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's get back to the rest of the video. Okay, so I've tidied up all them wires underneath, so they're nicely compacted in underneath the platform, and I have already done this, but just so that you can see, just like that. So we know they work, so let's get this moved over to the layout. That's the platforms back in place, and I'm sure you're going to glue them down once I know everything's working, but it's good just to keep them loose until I know everything's working. And if I just lift this up a little bit, you can see there's the wires running under the platforms and through the bottom of the baseboard. So if you remember, on this platform we had a long wire at this end, and apologies for waving the camera around, but it's so that I can show you, and that's them wires coming out under the baseboard. Then each of these lights was connected together all the way along, and then we had an extra wire coming off there which ran under the baseboard and connects to a wire on this end, and then again each of these lights on this platform are connected to the next one. So in terms of current, it's running in there, lighting that, connecting, 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 connecting. So you get the idea. That's how they are all going to work. So what we need now is to connect these to our power source. Now the easiest way to do that, and I'm just going to bring the camera down, hopefully you can see. So here is our power source that we connected earlier, my 3-volt supply. Ignore the fact I've already connected something to it. So this is where our plug was going in the bottom. Here's our ports, and here is my wires off the platform light. Now I can literally put this into one of these ports on here. So I could literally put the negative on one side, the positive on the other side, and them street lights would work straight away. Or alternatively, you can connect a on-off switch if you want to have separate control. So if I just move across, you can see here I have a separate control area. So putting a switch on is really, really simple. I'll show you how to do that. So in front of us, we have got a positive wire and a negative wire. Now let's just assume my platforms are here, and we've got the positive and the negative coming out from the platforms, and at the other end we have the power source. And like I just said, if you put the positive and the negative wires connected to the power source, you've got power running through both wires and your platform lights will light up. If you want to have a switch, then what we need to do is break the power with an on-off switch. So here I've got a simple toggle switch. I'll put a link to these in the description down below, and this is just an on-off switch. Now for points and things you get on, off, on switches and momentarily switches and all that kind of thing. Forget all that. This is just an on-off switch. So on, off, that's it, nothing else to it. And all it's got is 2 prongs underneath. All we need to do is break the positive wire. So if this is our positive wire, wherever you want the switch to be, just break your red wire. So that end is still connected to the platforms, that end is still connected to your power, and all you want to do is just strip back these 2 wires, solder them onto these 2 contact points on there. Make sure you've got a bit of heat shrink or something over to protect them, and then all that's going to do is when it's in the off position, it breaks the power supply and when you flick the switch to on, it then connects the wires, and that's the power. Really simple on off switch, and that's how you do that. Now I want one of these, so I'm going to do that off camera, and then I'm going to show you the final thing. Alright, so we've got the switch connected. I've had my label maker out again, made a little label for there, and underneath where the wiring is. Now I need to tie all this wiring up under the baseboard, but I'll do that later. And it's connected here to a power source, and I just put a little label on there, and I also put, if the camera's picking it up, a label on there as well. And if I get far enough back for the camera angle, and if you watch the platform lights when I flick the switch, and there we have an illuminated platform, and the two waiting rooms that have got 3-volt lights in are also connected. Now that is platform lights, and as you can see behind, we've also got street lights, and the street lights are exactly the same. So with a piece of wire we connect that light to 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 that light, and so on all the way back along the street. And then underneath they're connected to the power source, and they're also connected to a switch. So when I press turn on the street lights, the street lights come on as well. And if I just turn the loft light off, hopefully that's coming up on the camera, and you can see now the street lights and the platform lights as well. Street lights, there's loads of different ones available in 00 gauge, not so many in N gauge, but I buy these. I get them on eBay. They come from China. They're 3 volts. They do not come with resistors, so you'd have to figure out what resistors to use if you wanted to use them on 12 volts, which I don't do. I just connect them to the 3 volt, but they're just nice, simple. They're relatively cheap, and you can also remove, if you just wiggle the head, it will come loose. I don't want to do it actually on that one, but it'll come loose and it'll pull away, and you'll just be left with just the light in the head. And that's actually pretty good for mounting into buildings, or you can take away the metal pole, and you could actually have it coming kind of on the side of a building as well, like a floodlight on the outside of the building. So they are from eBay, and they're just N gauge, N scale. You might have to type in, I think these are 1 to 150 street lights. But if these are a bit bright for you or a bit white for you, and you don't want to go down the route of working out resistors, and in 00 gauge you can buy these in white and yellow and loads of colours, you're really struggling in N gauge to find anything other than white. If you find something different, please share it in the comments below. But I use this. It's a Tamiya paint. It's an acrylic paint. It's a clear yellow X24, and actually if you paint some of this just using a paintbrush, just open it so you can hopefully see, it's like a syrup. If you paint some of that on these lights, that will turn your light from white to a yellow colour. So if you're modelling the 70s or 80s when the lights were more yellow in the streets, that will work as a little cheat. So let's take a look at lighting up a building, and again this can be as complicated or as easy as you want to make it. There's various different lights that you can get, probably more than I've got in front of me, but I'll just show you a few. First ones are grain of wheat bulbs. I bought these ages ago. I don't use them, and the reason I don't use them, they're pre-wired. You can see hopefully there why they're called grain of wheat, but these get hot, and I use a lot of card and plastic buildings, and therefore I don't want anything hot getting inside them. So in front of me we've got 3 different kinds of lights, and these are the lights that I use, readily available online. The first one is just a standard LED, and I buy them pre-wired, which already comes fitted with a resistor, and as you can see on the back of here, these are warm 12 volt. I just scribbled that on when I bought them because it doesn't actually tell you on the pack what they are, but they've already got a resistor so they can be connected to 12 volts, and they are a warm white bulb, and you can literally just put that inside your building. I've got a signal box here, which is the one that's going to be in this country station, bit of glue in the roof, pop that in and connect it to your power, and you've got a light. And just to show when I say connected to power, that there you go, is one of those LEDs already wired, nice and simple. The biggest issue you'll have with these is the wires are not very long, so you're going to have to connect another wire to them. So that's the first option. The second option is again an LED, but these ones are flat surface mounted ones. Again, these are 12 volt, and I get these on eBay. I'm sure you can buy them from other places, and you can see there that's all pre-wired up, ready to connect at 12 volts, and that white bit there, that is your LED in there. So there you can see, just connecting that to my battery, you can see that working. What I like about these ones is they're much easier to hide inside of a building, because if you're creating a roof, or should I say a ceiling, to go in the building, all you have to do out of thin paper or plastic card, you just cut a little square roughly the size of that light, and if you just imagine, I've got a piece of plastic card there, that's the ceiling. If I just cut a hole that size and then pop that light through, all you would see is the light, you wouldn't see any of this. So they're great for buildings. I really like these, and I use a lot of them on my layout. Now, of course, you might be lighting a building up, for example, a department store or a train station building, where you want a lot of lights inside. Now, another option would be to use this LED strip. You've got warm white, and you can also get this in bright white, and you can get it in 3 volt and 12 volt, and it's just LED strip light. But what's good with this is you can cut it after each LED. So if you wanted 4 lights in the building next to each other, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can just cut through where the metal is there, and that would be your lights. And all you have to do with these is solder on your power. Now remember, these are 3 volts. I've got my little 3 volt battery pack, and you would just solder onto the end your positive and negative wire onto these little metal contact strips. Because I can't see very well, I'm just going to do one there, and you can see there them lighting up. Not very easy with my hand in the way, and I'm struggling to get a good connection, but yeah, you can see. So again, with these, you could just cut your ceiling of the building around them and have the lights in. And again, remember, if it's a bit too bright and you don't want to mess on with resistors, then just paint something over them. You know, you can go darker. You don't have to use the yellow. The yellow will give you that nice 1980s tinge. But you could just paint any colour over them if it's hidden inside your building, just to tone the lights down. Okay, so with this little signal box here, and you might recognise this from previous videos, it used to be green. I repainted it into my GNER blue to go on the layout. This is a Bachmann 2014 signal box, and I just want a light in the top of it to light it up. I'm not going to put any detail inside this building just yet. I may in the future, as a little project, come back and revisit it and put an interior in. Depends how well you can see it once it's lit up. So let's get it lit up first of all. Now, the thing you've got to be careful of with buildings is light bleed. And if you remember back in my station build, I painted the inside of the walls black before covering them in wallpaper, so to speak, to stop any light bleed. This is a resin building, and the problem with resin buildings is they do have a habit of glowing if you put too strong a light in or too many lights in them. So I am going to just put one of these 12 volt lights in. Is I'm going to pop this inside with a little bit of blue tack, and then connect it to the battery and just see if I think it's bright enough for what I need, and if not, we'll use a different type of light. So let me just have a little play. Alright, so we've got that connected, and that's looking pretty bright, and I would say it definitely needs an interior in the building. It's not too bright. One bulb is definitely going to be enough. It's shining down through the outside, through the bottom part of the building as well. So the one good thing with this, if I turn off my desk lamp, I don't think we've got, we have. So the walls at the bottom, if you look, they're glowing. So the interior of this building is going to need to be painted with black paint. I'll then paint back over it with white afterwards. The black will stop the light bleed, the white will give us a better interior colour. So what I've done is I painted the interior of this black, as you can see. That'll stop the light bleed and stop the building from glowing, and then I just repainted the inside using a grey just to give it a lighter colour on the inside, rather you just wouldn't have black walls. And as we noticed before, you're going to see into this quite a lot. Now I've just had a quick look online and I can get a little ratio interior kit for this. It's probably going to be a nightmare to build and engage, but it's only a £5, so we'll give it a go. But I'm not paying £5 for something and £5 postage, so that will go on hold, and next time I'm doing an order online or when the model shops are back open, I will get one and have a go. So with that in mind, I've needed to create the light to go inside of it, but I need to make sure that I'm not going to get light bleed out the bottom, but I can get back inside to put an interior in. And actually, me being me, I want a little bit of an interior in it for now. So let's start off with the light, and this is it. So I've used one of those little green ones that I showed you before, little 12-volt LEDs, and it's a piece of plastic card, that's 1/2mm plastic card, and just some textured paper from scale scenes on the other side to give it a ceiling. And I just cut a little hole, and there's the light. So you'll not see all that, that's going to be up in the roof. All you'll see is just the light bulb, and there's the 2 wires coming off. Now they're really fine wires. And then I've built this random looking little thing here. So all this is here is some 1mm plastic card, and I just used some plastic weld to kind of create this little shape. And then I've just used some scale scenes goodies to create a little bit of an interior. Obviously all the levers are to go in front of it, but I put a fireplace in, a couple of bookcases, some notices or something on the wall. That's too small to see what they are, but they're there. It's a representation. Now the height of this is the right height for the interior of the signal box, and the idea being the wires from the roof, they just run through that piece of heat shrink that I haven't shrunk. I've just used it as kind of cable trunk in there, and then I've connected them to, just solder them onto some thicker wire that won't break. And then all I can need to do is just glue the roof, the ceiling should I say, into the inside of the building, pull down the slack wire here, just like that, so that the roof sits, the ceiling sits, should I say, just above inside the signal box like that. And basically that will just slot on over the top of it, and then when I need to come back to put the levers and so on in the signal box, I can just lift this off. That'll all be stuck to the glue, to the baseboard, albeit just with some tacky wax or something that I can take off easily. And oh, I'm going out of focus, sorry, there we go. And it means that I can come back and finish the signal box at a later date, but for now it's got a little bit of interior in there and it doesn't look totally unused and derelict, which I don't want it to look like that. So let me get this ceiling glued into here, this put onto the baseboard, and let's get this wiring connected to my 12-volt supply, and I'll show you the finished article. That's everything back in place on the layout, including the signal box. The platforms and station buildings are now glued down. The signal box I've kept loose, just so I can do some more work to that in the future. I've turned the big light off in the loft. I've just got the LED strip lights turned on at the moment, but let's illuminate these and let's have a look at them. So first of all, we have the street lights for the car park and the road leading to the station. Then we have the platform lights, and then finally we have the building lights. So I'm really pleased with how that's looking. Until I edit the video, I'm not entirely sure how the camera's picking it up, but in the flesh it looks really good. I'm really pleased with it. I'll take some pictures just so you can see some of the detail on it, and as always I'll leave those pictures at the end of the video for you. All that's left to say is I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, pop in the comments down below what you didn't like, what you would do differently, any suggestions you've got, and I will see you in the next video when we get this station finished and we get all the details, footbridges, barrow crossings, all that good stuff all put into place. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, and I will be back with you in a couple of weeks. Stay safe, guys. Take care. Bye bye.